Hello, welcome to Golden Hawk Speaker Series podcast number 7 now. And I'm here with,
Angel Marcano.
Fontasia Smith.
Jose Zuniga.
and I'm Lucas Payanes, and this is Jen Diaz, your trade and logistics attorney. Can you go into what that is?
Would love to. I truly consider myself more of a customs and international trade attorney. I deal a little bit less with the logistics per se. And the number one question is, what does that really mean? Which I very much understand. When I started in customs and trade law, I had no idea what that meant. I lived across the street from a port and every day saw the gantry cranes and had no idea what they were, saw containers, saw trucks, and didn't understand any of the process or how any of it worked. But in my world, we help companies in one of two instances. Let's say you have a cool idea and want to buy something online. How many of you four have ever shopped online? All of you, right? You've all used Amazon or some online platform. Of course you have. When you purchase something online, do you have any idea where the product is made? And when's the last time you looked at a label and saw the country of origin on your shirts, on your socks, on anything you use? Have you ever looked at the origin on where something was made? Unfortunately, in the United States, we make less and less things. So the likelihood is it was made in China or made in another country. So I help companies in one of two instances. Either they want to make apparel, alcohol, food, clothing, whatever the item is, and they want to understand how to bring it to the US in compliance with one of the 47 federal regulatory agencies that regulate imports and exports. We call that pre-compliance. And I'm curious from your perspective, how many companies do you think, or how many times have you ever thought before you made a purchase online, ooh, I should really contact a lawyer and make sure it's okay for me to buy this item online and make sure I won't get in trouble? Do you ever think about that? I'm going to bet the answer is no.
If you go on Alibaba.com,
and you know how many people do? How many people go on Alibaba? It's crazy.
But how many? But sometimes you're there and you're like, is this even legal to have in the US?
No, no, right. But I'm so glad you think that. How many people do you think click on Alibaba, purchase it, and then are shocked when US Customs has a problem with it? So I would say the pre-compliance aspect is less than 10% of my business. The majority of my business is somebody tried to buy the good off of Alibaba and US Customs stopped it and said, no way, Jose. This isn't coming into the US because, as Lucas said, it's not legal. It's not okay for it to come to the United States in the first place. And God forbid somebody would have done their homework in advance to say, wait a minute, should I really be buying this? Is it okay to purchase? Does it really comply with US standards? Or they never asked for any information about the authenticity. One of the number one reasons for goods to be seized by customs is they're counterfeit. So how many times have you seen some sexy Gucci, Cartier, or whatever item that you're like, this is awesome, I would love it. And then there's a knockoff online that's 1/100th of the price. And you get excited about that and potentially want to buy it. But do you think it's okay from a customs perspective? Definitely not.
So what is the regulatory agency that, I know that brand or trademark, but what is the regulatory agency that takes action when a counterfeit is made?
So good. So you actually have a few agencies involved. U.S. Customs and Border Protection, CBP, they're the agency at, guess how many borders we have? 328 borders in the United States, 328 ways for goods and or people to enter the United States. So U.S. Customs is physically at every border in the United States looking for bad potential goods that come into the US. So let's pretend that Fontasia had a really cool brand. She's making awesome clothing and she's using Fontasia as her awesome, sexy brand, right? If she wants to protect that brand, you would register it with the United States Patent and Trademark Office, and then you would tell US Customs, let's pretend Jose is with US Customs, Fontasia would record her registered brand with US Customs, and then Jose would tell everybody in Customs at all 328 ports of entry, we need to protect Fontasia. So if Angel tries to make a counterfeit version of Fantasia's brand, Jose is looking for all the bad angels all across the US and calling Fontasia and saying, Fontasia, did you know about this horrible angel guy? He's trying to bring in counterfeits of your brand. And Fontasia gets to say, hell no, that's not okay. Fantasia gets to call her lawyer to say, I'm going to sue Angel for interfering with my brand and trying to profit off of it. And Jose does this for a minuscule amount of money. It's one of the coolest programs that I think US Customs offers that a minuscule amount of brands take advantage of. But when they do, here's the best part. For messing with Fantasia's brand, Jose seizes Angel's counterfeit goods and then also issues Angel a penalty for what Fantasia's brand would actually sell for. So let's make it a fake apparel brand that Angel's bringing in, but Fantasia sells the apparel for $500 a shirt. Angel's trying to bring it in for $1 a shirt. Jose's penalty to Angel is $500 a shirt times the 1,000 shirts he brought in. That's a lot of money. So I recently had a 20-year-old thinking, I'm just going to buy stuff of Alibaba, no biggie. And all of a sudden she gets $1 million penalty in the mail. How would any of you feel if you had $1 million penalty issued by US Customs sent to you? I hope you would freak out. Because the first step, when Jose, for example, sent the seizure notice to Angel, Angel rips it up, thinks it's toilet paper, no biggie. I don't really have to care about this. It's only a letter from the government. Not a biggie. I'll just ignore it and it'll go away. And then if Jose sends Angel $1 million penalty, Angel, you're going to freak out for $1 million penalty. I know you will, right? You would hope.
How does the US collect on those $1 million?
Good question. So hopefully Angel's smart enough to say, all right, I didn't get a lawyer involved when I clicked on Alibaba. I didn't get a lawyer involved when I got the original letter from Jose. But now that Jose, US Customs, sent me $1 million penalty notice, Angel, are you going to call a lawyer? Do you want to pay $1 million? No, at that stage, you call a freaking lawyer because who the hell wants to pay that? So then I get involved and I talk to Jose. Jose, let me tell you about Angel. He's a young schmuck. He didn't know what he was doing. And then let me tell you about Angel's finances. Does Angel make $1 million a year? Let's pretend you're poor, Angel. So we get in Angel's financials and we say, look, here are his last 3 tax returns. Oh, wait, he hasn't even had a job. He has no real source of income here. Or, yes, he does. He's been selling fake Fantasia branded goods for how many years, right? He's got his little side hustle after school, which is what he was doing. But he's made minuscule amounts of money on it. And then Angel's promising he's never going to sell this crap online again, right? Angel, you're promising you're never going to do that again, ever? Fingers crossed, right? Never going to happen again. And then Fantasia's going to sue you separately, and that I can't. You know, that we help you with separately. But Fantasia, are you happy that Angel's messing with your brand and trying to profit off of your brand? Wouldn't you be pissed? You should be. You're working really hard. It's your blood, sweat, and tears going into making your brand sexy and profitable. And Angel just thinks he can just, rip you off and fake. That sucks. Sorry, Angel, but you're the bad guy today.
You're good.
You're sitting in the wrong chair. So I think it's pretty cool how all of these things work together,
So what you're saying is the majority of the fines set forth by the Customs Border Patrol are dropped or reduced?
Wait, border protection. So I want to fix it. So we see that a lot. When you think of US Customs, they're the agency that protects our borders, right? Border Patrol is what helps people come into the US. Border protection is what we're dealing with for cargo. So we call them CBP, US Customs and Border Protection. They're the ones that inspect and deal with and facilitate the importation and exportation of legitimate goods.
Now, so in this scenario, Fantasia had a private suit against Angel.
Yes.
Angel
so I represent Fantasias of the world, right? And we send Angel a cease and desist letter. And we say, Angel, you better stop what you're up to right now.
So what if Angel is running everything through an S corp, and then he closes the S corp, the corporation down, and then there's nowhere to grab. You can't if he was running everything through a corporation, you can't grab him personally, so he's not personally liable. So what's keeping Angel from opening up another corporation with 30 days, which is very easy to do nowadays on the computer, and then starting the whole business up again?
He can, and that it does it. But now remember, Fantasia's smart. She went to US Customs and she has Customs protecting her at every border. So Angel tries to shut down one business and open up a new business to screw with Fantasia again. You think Jose is not smarter? Jose's got his sexy computer systems, and Jose also tracks every company to the owners as well. So if Jose's silly enough to own personally a different company and just start opening up a new one, technically, Jose's sexy computer would know that also, and Jose would be targeting. Jose's still targeting for anyone importing counterfeit goods. So now if Angel just tries to shut down and open up new companies and still counterfeit, Jose's going to know. CBP is going to be on top of that. And then CBP also could bring in their friends with Homeland Security investigation and start criminal proceedings against Angel because it is technically illegal to traffic in counterfeit goods. So if Angel decides that he thinks he's going to be so slick to keep opening up new companies and screw with Fantasia and other brands, then Jose is going to get his friends at HSI involved, and we're going to go after Angel criminally too, potentially.
So, okay, so like, eventually there's like, if he keeps on doing it. I mean,
Potential.
I've never seen a case where like, Shell Corporation in a different country owned a corporation here in America that was routed to like a company that has no extradition with the US, like, I don't know.
So I will tell you this. Let me make that simplified because I know where you're going. So let's say that Angel's in Costa Rica, right? So Angel's out of the United States.
No
And
extradition.
Angel's bringing goods into the United States. You can be a foreign importer of record. So it's kind of an exception where you physically don't have to have a US business in order to bring goods into the United States. Many people don't know this. So now Jose can send him a seizure. Jose can send him a penalty notice. What if Jose sends Angel all sorts of notices and Angel just keeps ripping them up and doing what with them? Then what typically happens is, does Angel ever want to travel to the United States? Because what if Angel just stays away from the United States? These are people that wind up getting away with murder because if Fantasia tries to sue him, what if she can't get jurisdiction? What if she has a judgment that says, Angel owes me $1 million, but good luck collecting it if he's never going to be here and has no assets in the United States? That does happen quite often. So if you want to be a bad guy, don't come to the United States.
Because we see a lot, like, like there's a lot of counterfeits in America. Actually, it got to the point that I was reading an article the other day that said there's more fake Rolex watches than real ones because the production is so limited and so scarce. And it just happens that everyone and their mother has a Rolex nowadays. So like it's so like you just see that like they just keep on getting away with it. Obviously, the small time crook that's bringing it into the port through Alibaba, he's getting caught. But the big ones that are bringing containers full, I feel like the U.S. hasn't taken any direction into prosecuting.
Not true. That's not true. I will tell you that Customs does publish seizure statistics, but I will tell you this. Let's look at it in a different way, right? Do you realize that there are trillions of dollars worth of goods coming into the US every year? Trillions, okay? Billions of dollars in duty collection every year. US Customs, so back to Jose, he's got a massive job in targeting. That doesn't mean that there's not going to be bad guys. Do you think drugs come into the United States? Do you think bad things come into the United States? BS if you don't. Of course they do. Do you think every product that comes to the US is legitimate? No. What percentage of goods do you think US Customs actually targets?
Not even
opens up. 1%, which is minuscule, but Jose's got sexy AI. So do you think US Customs is using automation, robotics, AI, cool data integration? So they are. They're using all sorts of targeting techniques to figure out who to actually pull over, who to open up their cargo, who to physically inspect. So Customs also publishes targeting data and also data of goods that are seized in the United States. So figure, I'm just pulling up, CBP has seizure statistics. Back in 2021 is the latest I'm seeing right now. From 2021, how many seizures do you think took place in the United States for counterfeit goods? Take a guess.
50.
Angel, what about you?
Yeah,
5.
5? You think there are only 5 bad angels? What about you, Fantasia?
Maybe like 80.
All right, Jose, come on, you're the bad guy. You're the good guy, you know? You think you're doing a good job, no? How many?
Yeah, like 100.
27,115.
Yeah,
So it's
I was
typically
gonna
about
say, I think
30,000.
Is that individual pieces or is that
No, that's total seizures. That's shipments. That's orders by the angels of the world online. Orders. Think about it as an order. Think about it as a container. Think about it as an actual shipment. Total shipments, not pieces. When you talk about pieces and values, it's a whole nother story. There's a lot. And the number one commodity is wearing apparel. So Fantasia's example was perfect. So US Customs has a massive job. Typically every year there are about 30,000 seizures that are done for intellectual property rights violations. And as you can imagine, China is the number one country of origin where these issues occur. What do you think the number two country is that has intellectual property rights violations? Guess.
India.
What else? Angel, Fantasia, Jose, what guess? Pick a country.
Probably, I was thinking Europe.
Okay. What about you, Fantasia?
Maybe Colombia.
What about you, Angel?
I don't know. I'll say Europe too.
Turkey.
Turkey. What do they?
Random. You
what
tell
do they
me
make
why.
it- What
Yeah.
do they make it?
Great question. So if you want to know stuff like that, then we go to US Census, and US Census has the coolest trade data because every time goods are imported or exported, there has to be trade data submitted, and US Census is the house for that trade data. So when we go on Census, you're able to look up goods by country and commodities that are imported by country and classifications. You can see that type of stuff. It's quite cool. I have a couple questions for you guys. Can I bombard a little bit? Do you mind? So what I'm curious on is I personally am old, apparently. I keep hearing that quite a bit. So you guys are the younger generations. You guys are going to be in the workforce. How long until all of you graduate? Jose, how much longer until you're in the workforce?
In like 2 years.
2 years. Fantasia, what about you?
Another year.
1 year. Angel?
Mm.
2 years? Okay. Lucas?
I'm going to my senior year now, so
1 year, less than a year. Okay, perfect. So you guys are perfect in terms of you guys are, ripe and ready. What's your dream work environment? What do you guys expect from a work environment when you're leaving and graduating and getting into the workforce? Jose, what's your expectation?
Pretty high. I expect everything to be done correctly and not have there's gonna be mistakes, but I expect minimal mistakes where it wouldn't damage the company.
That's good. What about you, Fantasia? What's your thought process in terms of a work environment?
I feel the same way, but I feel like the environment should be more safe. Like workers shouldn't be around like hazardous type of machinery. Because what if we get hurt, workers comp, things like that.
Okay, a safe environment, minimal mistakes. I like it. What else? What else? What else are your expectations for a work environment, Angel?
I don't get the question.
Meaning when you're graduating and you're getting in and you're starting to interview, you have to figure out where you want to work when you grow up, right? So what I want to understand from you guys is I'm going to have a series of fun questions for you because I want to understand your brain and your mentality. Meaning, as you're starting to think about where you want to work and the type of workplace you want to work in, what are things that are important to you as you choose where you're going to work when you're done with school? What are your expectations or your thoughts on a work environment that would be exciting for you?
Intricate, like and interconnected. I feel like I want to know when I want to be able to when I think of work past high school, like when you actually get into the real world and you start working, I feel like an environment that I would like would be something where you can see how everything works together and it works well. Because I feel like once you get into the real world, that would be reassuring to that you're like in a good place.
I like that. That's cool. What about you, Lucas?
tough question. I feel I feel like I'll keep working where I'm at right now. Um,
What do you love
and
about that environment?
what I love about that environment, it has a lot of personal responsibility. I'm able to make mistakes and learn from them,
That's cool.
and it's not so. Yeah, when people say, "Oh, I don't want a place that has a lot of mistakes," I don't agree with that. I feel that we only learn. You can study all you want in a book. I can read
Yep.
about how to do something a million times, but it doesn't mean I know how to do it. It just means I know that theoretically how to do it. Until you make a mistake, you fail at something, you really never know how to do it.
Especially if it's safe enough where you don't really break the whole place down and you have somebody that's able to fix the mistakes and teach you.
you know, like I always said, like to be a safe driver, you have to crash your car. You have to have a car accident because you know what not to do. Like you have to make mistakes in order. Someone that says, "Oh, I've never made a mistake in my life," I'm like, "Well, you've never tried hard. If you're
Yeah,
really trying."
failure, yes. Have you heard Blake, who made Spanx? She has a great talk on failure if you've never heard it. It's really awesome. So every day at her dinner table, her family said, "What did you fail at today?" As if it was an accomplishment. Because they said if you're not trying hard enough, 100% like you're saying, Lucas, imagine that as your driver. So every day, what did you fail at today? As an excited question to say, what did you try and didn't achieve that you're going to try harder on and keep trying on the next day and the next day? I love that.
Because what you fail at today is what you succeed in tomorrow. You
And
can't fail.
that's the attitude. I love it. Question for you, because apparently going back to the I'm old thing, I like Facebook, right? How many of you what are the social media platforms that you're using right now? So when I say Facebook, are you like you're ancient, like my grandma uses Facebook? Or do you use it? You do?
For
What do you
marketing.
guys, what are your number 1, 2, 3? What are the sexy platforms you're using? Start with you, Lucas.
Okay, Instagram and Facebook I use for marketing. I run Facebook and Instagram ads whenever I need to, for where I work at. So Facebook has older generation, and that's the demographic that they are. But the older generation are more stable people, so you have a more stable customer base that you find on when you run Facebook ads, you have more stable and consistent customer base. But when you're on Instagram ads, you're very impulsive. You have to be very impulsive. You have to have something quick, a very quick, attention grabbing video because it's mostly impulse buys of younger people that are probably gonna
Yeah.
buy it and never buy it again, or the service, whatever the case may be. So
But you're talking from a work perspective. What I'm curious on is like when you're not working, Lucas, what are you using? What
I
are
mean,
the social media platforms that you use personally?
personally, I don't use social media. I mean, Snapchat just to text people, but I don't use social media.
You don't use it at all. What about you, Angel?
Instagram.
Personally. Insta. Okay. Fantasia?
Instagram.
Insta? Jose?
Instagram.
Everybody's an Insta lover. Interesting. And you don't use anything else? No TikTok, no anything else, just
I
Insta.
use TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat. Those are my.
Okay, correction. Twitter for news, you have to but I never post anything. But you have to read on Twitter because every news media is not moving to Twitter now. And then TikTok, if you ever want a funny video, they're not on YouTube anymore. They're on TikTok now. But I
How
started
much
using
time
TikTok.
do you guys spend on TikTok a day? Have you seen some of these reports? Like people are spending hours on TikTok a day. Tell me the truth. Are you guys spending hours on TikTok a day?
Well, I
I'm
can
gonna
tell you
tell you
right
right
now,
now.
we all, it tracks it on the phone.
Wait, what do you mean tracks it? Teach.
So when you're on your homepage and you slide to the left, right, it tells you
Slide
like
to the right.
your screen time.
Wait, what in your iPhone?
No.
Today-
It's a widget. It's a widget. You have to add it
You have
yourself.
to add, yeah.
What's the name of the widget?
time.
Screen time. It comes like if you go to settings.
If you go to
comes with
settings and you
find
search
it.
screen time.
Look, I have 8 hours on Instagram and 6 hours on TikTok
In what period of time?
this week.
Ooh, okay.
I'm only on
Wow.
Wednesday.
Okay,
3.
so today I spent on Instagram. I did a post today, so that took me like 35 minutes, but that was not personal. TikTok, I spent 9 minutes. On my email, I spent 2.5 hours answering emails. So I guess
Right. Welcome to the work world. You're more of the worker already, Lucas, so you don't count.
Yeah.
You count, but you don't
and
count.
Snapchat, 10 minutes.
Okay, minuscule. What about you guys, Fantasia, Jose? Are you guys spending a lot of time on these platforms?
I'm trying to see now.
Yeah.
So everybody uses this screen time widget. That's a thing. Teach me about other apps. What other things are you using regularly?
One of the things that I like is if you have a MacBook, it tells you the screen time on your MacBook and on your phone. So you add the both instead,
Okay, here's a big debate I've had. Mac versus Office and like Dell and like
If you
non-Mac.
have an
So
iPhone, go with Mac. The connectivity is great. For
do you
at
think
least
the business world runs on Macs and Apple? How many law firms do you think utilize Mac?
yeah, but I have Office on my Mac. You can download Office on
Oh,
Mac.
all of my apps that we use in our office, this is a fight we have consistently because all of our law clerks and the younger generations, what is it with Apple? It like absorbs your generation. Like,
Better
could you
quality.
ever picture not having an Apple?
Better quality.
Okay, that's your perception.
A
It's
MacBook is
interesting.
aluminum. A MacBook is aluminum. It's hard to find a Dell or whatever that has the toughness of a. Because if I have to go to a job site or whatever, I need something tough. I put an OtterBox on my iPad, and my iPad and my MacBook and my cell phone on my. So when I do scheduling for customers or whatever, it all synchronize. I have Word, Excel, PowerPoint, everything on my MacBook, and then I also have the Photoshop. So when I take a picture of something and I need to do something for a customer in Photoshop, I can have it. The Photoshop platform doesn't transfer to Windows. So for me,
Yeah,
with
from a marketing side, that's different. I'm talking about legal. Like in my
legal
world, the
is
legal world, like
okay,
we don't use Macs, and it's interesting because your particular generation, believe me, I have an iPhone as well, so I understand Apple and an obsession with it. But it's always an interesting challenge because have any of you ever used a non-Mac computer? Yes? No?
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
You have to. I mean,
I would hope so.
when you put in an order, for a long time, a lot of the websites that I use for paint selection, whatever, they didn't use Mac. They started using Apple systems recently. So before I had a Dell, and it worked, but I just didn't have that connectivity that I like about the Apple. On my phone, my iPad, and
All
my
right,
Mac.
I'm not going to win this one, so I'm good with that. Let's move on. When you guys think about supply chain and logistics jobs that exist, and when you think about legal jobs in like supply chain and logistics, like what questions come to your mind, or like what thoughts come to your mind? Like the intersection of supply chain logistics and the legal world is my world. I'm curious, like in your mind for that, like what questions do you have about that kind of intersection? Or like, is that interesting, or do you think that's just boring? Like, what are your thoughts when you think about supply chain logistics and law together? Do you think that that's cool? Do you think it's boring? Do you think it's interesting? Like, what are the thoughts there? And like, how would you market that if you were me to your generation?
How are a quick explanation? You don't have to go into much detail. But how are tariffs negotiated and dealt with on the import side?
Oh, you're talking about import tariffs?
Yeah.
You're,
And
I mean,
export.
you're talking about World Customs Organization stuff. That's incredibly long and detailed. But the bottom line is the negotiation of them is not like a yearly, daily thing. What I care about and what I deal with is what are the amounts of tariffs. And you know that from going to the harmonized tariff schedule of the United States. If you're trying to say I'm paying what I believe is a crazy tariff and it's too high, every so many years there is a reevaluation of the amount of tariffs, but that's at the World Customs Organization level. And on our US level, there's the miscellaneous tariff sketch, the miscellaneous tariff bill, the MTB process, but it's a tougher process that doesn't, in my specific opinion here, I don't think that gets addressed well enough in the United States. I think that's a different kind of longer term story, and I can show you examples off record, offline, but I think that's juicy. When it comes to China tariffs, that's a whole nother sexy topic that we're dealing with on an everyday basis. And there was an exclusion process, and there's a current lawsuit that's going on, and we're intertwined in China tariffs consistently. But right now, the exclusions are minimal, and most people are paying 25% on China goods, and that's not going away. Imagine putting an extra 25% margin on your orders. That sucks. So, welcome to increases in prices and inflation and all the other crazy things we're dealing with in the economy. But back to my question to you. If you were marketing, supply chain, logistics, and law to your generation and you were me, what tips would you give the me's of the world trying to get young people to get excited about law and supply chain logistics and the combination of the two?
The first question I would ask you, like from a marketing standpoint, would be: are you looking for new customers, or are you looking for new lawyers?
Talent, lawyers.
New talent. Okay. First, talent starts in the high school level and college level, of course. But you can see a lot from an 18-year-old kid. So career fairs. As a law firm, go out into a career fair and show people, because a lot of people say, hey, I want to be a lawyer, but there's a million different types of law. You have contract,
Yeah,
divorce, and
sure. Immigration, the list goes on. Right.
migration, well, a million things. And then you have also the public service. I mean, if you
Right,
go
but
to,
answer more specifically. I understand different areas of law. I'm talking about career fairs, I think are so blah. But I mean, in reality, getting to a strategic student is a whole different story. I mean, knowing the Knicks of the world, like your professor, I think are great, but I'm curious more, I guess more specifically, is does that sound interesting to you, Fantasia, Jose, Angel, like the intersection between law and supply chain logistics, or does it sound like, it's a very specific person that would be interested in supply chain and law, I think. It's not interesting. It's okay if it's not interesting. It doesn't have to be interesting to everybody. Like, what do you guys all envision doing when you're graduating with a degree, like focused on supply chain logistics? What career paths do you think you're going to be on? What do you guys think you're going to be doing with that particular degree? How many of you think you're going to stay in the supply chain logistics world?
I mean, it's a growing industry, so.
It really
mean,
is. It's a sexy industry, especially in South Florida.
Just knowing about it and understanding it will help you tenfold. Like the class that we have now and the logistics class that we have, it has helped us so much, you know. But back to the law thing, it's hard to sell legit trade law. It's not as, when we go on TV and we see suits or whatever, you see a criminal defense attorney, a district attorney. Those things are like fun because like, oh, criminal. Then you have divorce attorney, which is always fun. People always hate you, but it's fun. I mean, like it's just, trade law is negotiation. So you have to target someone that likes negotiating, someone that likes contracts, someone.
Not really.
Really? Well,
really? So I think the day-to-day aspect of the law is not something that's really understood. So going back to our example, right, which is a normal day at Diaz Trade Law, Angel has a seizure notice from U.S. Customs from Jose. I'm there. It's not a negotiation per se. I could call Fantasia and say, Fantasia, do you give Angel permission after the fact to remove your trademark from his goods? And what is Fantasia going to say?
No.
Right. Why would you negotiate with Angel? So sometimes that negotiation works. Sometimes I'm convincing enough to say Fantasia feels bad for Jose because I give her a whole sob story about Jose. I know, I'm sorry, about Angel. And maybe Fantasia says, okay, you can take out my logo this time and work with me. But then on paper, I'm writing to Jose back with my petition about Angel and his factors and why he shouldn't be penalized or why he should get his goods back or why he should get a mitigated amount. Or where there is an argumentative side, but it's on paper. We personally, for the majority of my firm, we do have a litigator that goes to court, but 90+% of our cases don't wind up in court. We're arguing, but on paper. So it's an administrative area of law where we're going back and forth with the Jose's U.S. Customs of the world on paper. So it could be that Jose is saying the duties that we paid are not sufficient, or the country of origin wasn't correct, the value wasn't correct, the classification wasn't correct, the way that we imported the goods utilizing intellectual property that didn't belong to us wasn't correct. So the U.S. Customs or other government agencies have a problem with our goods. Like we deal with other government agencies like FDA. So everybody's very familiar with COVID. How many of you used hand sanitizer during COVID? Everyone, right? So there was hand sanitizer, for example, from Mexico that came into the United States and had the active ingredient was substituted with a bad active ingredient. So imagine if you use a lot of it and you had a reaction, for example. So we handled recalls of that with FDA. It's all on paper. We handled the marketing communications of that, the press releases that went out, now all the communication with the FDA to get those products destroyed. But what we deal with is the legal aspects of importing and exporting, but on paper. So how do you make that exciting to the young generations?
Have you ever had to deal with like a class action sue of
I
non?
don't litigate. You're not listening. I don't go to court. But class action lawsuits did come to pass from that. But I handled the administrative side. So what you're talking about and what excites you is the litigation aspect that happens after, the bigger things that happen after. I have to deal with the minutia that happens before you get there. How do I get people that like that minutia before you get there? So the class action is getting everybody together to fight against my client. What about protecting the client that's going through the recall, right? How do I make this more exciting?
I
Because
feel
it
like
is.
you could do that through social media, like a lot more big time influencers. That way it gets like across to people so they know, because not most people know about this.
Why would you, right? I looked at a port my entire life from my balcony and I didn't understand what happened there. I didn't understand that US Customs was targeting goods there. I didn't understand why those containers mattered and how goods got to my local stores based upon what was coming out of those containers. Why would you know these things? Why would you think about it?
I
You
mean,
know,
it
but
affects,
what
but it's behind the scenes. It's kind of like since out of sight, out of mind. Like we don't see that. And there's not a lot of, like I said, litigation is fun and it's easy to get someone to be a
it's
litigator.
fun for you, but it's not fun for all lawyers. I mean, some lawyers don't want to litigate, and it's cool to have non-litigation career paths.
And you need to find those attorneys. That's why I said, like, you're looking for that one attorney that doesn't want to litigate. But at the end of the day, and I don't mean this with, like, I've met my attorneys and doctors, they love being the hero. Attorneys, when they have a big case, they like the spotlight. And it's okay, they deserve it. They went to school, they studied, and they're a good attorney. They deserve everything that they get. I understand that. But an attorney loves to win a record-breaking case that puts their name on the news. For the most part, you're looking for that small percentage that don't really care about it. They're don't really care about it. That they don't appreciate it as much, and it's a very small niche of people. It's not as big as the people that want to put their name on. People like, oh, like the Roy Blacks of the world, the Kendall Coffees of the world, the Johnny Cochran's of the world. That people years
Would it surprise you to know that I've been in the press for some of my cases? Would it surprise you to know that you don't have to be a litigator to be talked about in the press and or to have insights on sexy things that are going on in law, and you could be an administrative lawyer and still have relevant feedback and thought leadership? Would that surprise you? Because that's true. That's a fact. There are many lawyers like myself that are administrative lawyers that still gain access to press and spotlight via what's going on in new laws. There are new forced labor laws, and a lot of lawyers are getting press on that new law. When things come up that are new, sexy, hot topics, there was new changes in prior disclosure laws, and I was one of the first lawyers to gain access to a sexy doc and got press on it and got to speak on it. There are things that happen where you can still gain notoriety and spotlight and not necessarily be in a courtroom. I think that's a misperception. Question I have for you guys, and what is your thought about remote work? We're having a big conversations about that. Do you think that you have to physically be on a job site, or do you have an expectation that you're going to work from home? Jose, what about you?
Nah, I don't really have a position. I don't really mind about
You don't
that.
know yet, but you don't have strong thoughts. Like if you go to an interview and they say you're coming on site 5 days a week, you're not like, okay, I'm not working there. I don't want to do that.
No, I wouldn't mind. It's a job. I mean,
Yeah.
every place has a different way of doing things. They could do it in person or online. It's the way they choose. But you cannot be the one that wants it. If you want the job, go for it. But it doesn't really matter what they
What
want to do.
What about you, Fantasia? Do you have any specific thoughts about remote work versus working on site at a company?
I feel like AI takes most jobs, so you gotta kind of pick and choose what you can get, because AI takes most physical jobs. Like, say for instance, if you deliver something, you know how at colleges they have like little robots that can deliver it for you, versus someone who could have did that for them. Now they have to be remote doing something else, so it takes over most jobs. So I feel like it'd be better to do it remote, since there's more opportunities out there.
Interesting. And if you had an employer that wanted you on site 5 days a week, for example, instead of and no remote, would that be a deal breaker for you?
No, I feel like hands-on is more better for me since you get the feel of it better, and I'm more like a hands-on learner versus virtual where you have like things that are chaotic in your background that you can't really, that you have no control over.
It's interesting. What about you, Angel?
I prefer on site.
That's cool. I hope you guys keep that attitude. Lucas, are you on site with your current job 5 days a week, or are you remote?
I'm on site 7 days a week. I mean, I don't, I mean, if we could still do paper taxes, I would. I mean, I feel like for
Paper. Wow. Paper?
some people don't agree with me, but like for me personally, computers slow me down. Yes, it helps me in a lot of things, but it slows me down. And then for everything, there's a trace. For everything, there's a. It's too controlling for me. I don't like that. And like the other day, I was out on a site, and I get a call, and then from one of the people I work with, and they're like, "Hey, I'm on my way to you." I'm like, "How do you know where I am?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, by the way, there's a tracker on your phone." And I'm like, "What? What is?"
Did you know that there was a tracker on your phone?
No, I didn't know. Apparently, I logged into one of the sites that I had to log into for an invoice, and when I did it, I said share your location, and you know how when you just
Wow.
tap to get into something real quick, I pressed share my location while I'm using the site, and I was like, I didn't,
You
I
didn't
don't
know.
want.
So
I'm-
talking about that technology for a second and going back to you, Fantasia, what you were talking about with AI, what are you guys seeing or using at this level in terms of chat GPT and AI? Is it starting at your level? Are you starting to see that in school and use it in any way? Do all of you have chat GPT accounts? Are you playing with it? Is that happening?
I feel like most people would use it to like write essays and whatnot. But then again, it would be repetitive. Like if as a teacher, you would see the same constant summaries coming up. So kind of get, suspicious.
Yeah, I
So
do think there's going to be a lot of that, like counterfeiting, like copyright issues. If you're, yes, I did hear that Chat GPT was going through some copyright issues in other countries in terms of the content that they put out, that it was going to be legally Chat GPT's, for example, like it's their essay. The essay belongs to them, not you, for example. Like it's interesting, but that those are going to be some fun legal questions that come out of it for sure.
I see that's where computers come in handy. That's something I like about computers. ChatGPT, for great instance. I need to make a lease agreement between me and a tenant. Normally, I'll have to go pay an attorney to write a lease with all the stipulations, access to trash service, whatever the case may be, parking spots. There's so many different things. Like people think, oh, it's just a simple lease agreement, but it's not. ChatGPT, you're like, and I've done this and I've seen this happen. And you type in, I need a lease with 2 parking spots per unit, monthly
Yeah.
rent.
There are lots of ways to utilize it, but are you utilizing it? I'm talking about in trade and logistics, not in general commercial transactions. I'm talking about for trade and logistics specifically. Have you been using it in any of your degree programs or anything in regards to trade and logistics specifically with ChatGPT? I'm hearing a lot about the future potential of it.
I have never used ChatGPT on school grounds. Never, I have never ever used ChatGPT to complete any assignment in school.
All right. Moving on. Nobody's ever saying that you're doing the wrong thing with your assignments. I get it. So
And
it's not something that comes up.
I still have my Fifth Amendment rights, so I'll just leave it at that.
All right. I want to leave you guys with any last question. And I have one last question for you because I know we're going to run out of time, but I can talk to you guys forever because I feel like there's also so much that we have to learn in reverse. There's a lot that you guys should be teaching the old me's of the world because I keep being told I'm old. I'm ma'am now. It's not fun to be ma'am. Like you're not going to like it when you're sir and ma'am and you get old. Those days come, but I want to be sure that you guys have a good understanding of what supply chain logistics and law really is like and what happens on a day-to-day basis. Like for me and my lawyers at my firm, And I also want to leave you guys with one piece of advice to give the me's of the world, the people that are 20 plus years your senior. I don't even really want to know how old you are and how many years older I am. Oh, this whole aging thing is hard. You'll get there. So I'm curious if you guys have any one last question for me in regards to the law slash supply chain logistics world, or if my world kind of makes a little bit more sense than it did an hour ago. And if not, if you guys have any advice to older generations in terms of trends or things you're seeing in school or things that you hope that the me's of the world take into account as they hire youngins. Because I think we think differently and we process differently, obviously, but there's a lot that we should be teaching each other.
I still, I'm gonna have to talk to you. I mean, I
You
live.
still don't get it. Okay.
No, I live by a rule that everything is a business transaction in life. Everything is a give and take relationship. There's always a winner and there's always a loser in every situation in life. And there's always something to learn or gain from it. Sometimes you lose, but you learned a lot, so you did gain. There's different aspects to look at. So to me, a trade attorney would just be someone that helps facilitate import, export, and trade in our country. And it takes care of the legal side of the business. The legal side of the business, to making sure that you're following parameters, making sure guidelines, rules, making sure you're not going to jail because you brought in, I don't know, half a dozen fake.
Don't be Angel, right? Don't be Angel.
Yeah, don't be Angel. Sorry, it's okay. But yeah, so I mean, at the end of the day, like you're just helping a business succeed and stay out of trouble, right? Is that not?
Or helping them when they do get in trouble. I think that's right. I hate the word just because it's never just. You're not just anything. You are whatever it is you are, you are. And we help people at the beginning when compliance or when the angels of the world get into trouble. And we help get them out of trouble and help them succeed for the next time. Like right now, we're seeing a lot of business resurrect with Cuba, and there are licenses that are needed. So when goods are being exported to countries like Iran, Cuba, Venezuela, we deal with those types of transactions. If somebody wants to bring in alcohol, we deal with TTB and get licenses for them. Somebody wants to deal with something that has a quota, we make sure that they're in, there's a lot of compliance related stuff in Majuff. For any item that comes into the US, you could have 5 federal agencies regulating one item. It's insane. But sometimes there's a lot that has to go into it. But so any other advice, Angel, Fantasia, Jose, or any other thoughts that you have or things that you kind of wish that people knew about your generation?
I mean, the only thing I don't have an advice, a piece of advice or anything like that. But I did want to tell you that I really appreciate. I don't know. It feels nice to the way you ask questions and you're curious about the way we think. I think that's really cool.
If you don't get it and you don't know it, I mean, I'm always open to learning and understanding how people think and what makes the world kind of go, because I see, like, I have very strong opinions on non-Mac and you have strong opinions on Mac, for example. I'm willing to listen. I'm not willing to change my firm operating systems and make sure that they work or don't work. We've tried. But I think you need to understand the people you want in your business. And I have a small family run business, it's a small little crew and we have to get to know each other and hopefully get to like each other even better, that makes life even better if you actually like who you're working with and you get to work on stuff and you're a team oriented environment, which is really what we are. So as we're trying to hire more, thank God there's business. There's a lot of the angels of the world getting in trouble. Not that you are a bad guy, Angel, in any way. So thank you for being a good sport today. But I think it's important for everyone to kind of learn from each other. Everybody has something to give.
All right.
Fantasia, Jose, any last thoughts before we close up? I know we're late and I know Nick is yelling at us.
No, we're good.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you guys for being open to being asked questions as well and giving back too. I think this was a lot of fun for me. So hopefully it was fun for you guys and you learned something. Thanks,
Yes.
Nick.
We had a great time.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining us. And yeah, maybe you can come to the school one time or whenever you have, you're always
When
welcome.
Nick invites, I never say no.
All right, yeah.
That's absolutely true. All right.
Have a great one, guys.
You too. Take care. Thank you so much.